Welcome back to the Mid-Year Mitch YouTube channel. Today's episode, we're doing a project car update. I get a lot of questions about what happened with all the other cars in the garage, so be sure to stick around. So if you've been following along the channel for a while, you know I have several projects going on here. So we're gonna do a quick walk around to show you guys what's going on with the 67 Camaro, the 68 Corvette, the 67 Roadster, there's a 63 split window back there, and then we also have a 65 Roadster project coming down the pipeline soon. We're gonna talk about Lucy, the 55 Chevy, and also Jerry, my 48 Chevy COE truck, and just any other project that we have coming down the pipeline. So those are all going to be covered in the video, but first let's start off with the 68 Corvette. So we have the 68 Corvette big block sitting here that, well, I haven't done a whole lot with it since almost a year ago. It's been probably 11 months since we've really worked on it. We tore it apart and started getting some of the pieces restored, and that's kind of where we left it. So right now the engine is at the engine builder. We dropped that off as soon as we tore the chassis apart, and I got the chassis powder coated. So now we're just waiting on the engine. Now the engine builder was really busy, so they got to all their race engines and all the stuff that was in line first, and then they got to this engine, but they had a hard time getting a camshaft, so they ended up having to switch manufacturers just so we could have a camshaft. The one they wanted is still back ordered. So they're working on that. I have to send the carburetors out to get those redone. But the engine's looking good. I'll have a full video coming up on the engine rebuild in the future. But the engine was already bored 60 over. It had a sleeve in it. It needed to be re-sleeved. It needed new pistons, rods, cam, lifters. The heads needed to be completely gone through. But everything's cleaned up. The whole bottom end is all put together. It looks really good. And the heads, like I said, the heads are beautiful and they're going on. So the engine's coming together. It shouldn't be all that long till it's ready. And I have the distributor over getting rebuilt as well. They're going to test it, get all that stuff dialed in. I'm going to send the carburetors out to Chicago Corvettes tomorrow. They're going to clean all those guys up and just get those ready to go. So that way we can run this thing on the dyno. So I would think mid-November, late November, we should be having a video on the engine coming back to life for this car. So you're going to want to look out for that. I have the transmission rebuilt along with the transmission from my Model A in the basement. And then back hiding in the shed over there, I don't know if you can see, there's a few big boxes on the shelf, but I have the trailing arms all gone through, the rear end's gone through, all the suspension is powder coated, rebuilt, the steering box is redone. I just have to go through and put the bushings in the control arms. I have to redo the front spindles, put new bearings on them and just clean those up and mess around with the steering linkage. But other than that, all the big pieces are waiting. So the plan is I have all the parts, I'll show you this later, I have all the parts in my townhouse garage lined up just waiting for this thing to be done. So I have gas tank, all the suspension bushings, brand new lines, calipers, rotors, pads, springs, everything ready to put this thing back together. So whenever the engine is done, and once these two cars are out of here, we're going to jump back on this thing, put the exhaust, engine, transmission, gas tank lines, everything on the chassis. We'll have it sitting next to the car. I have to do some fiberglass repairs in the engine compartment. We're going to put a new wiring harness in the engine compartment, new vacuum lines before the body goes on. I think it'll be a lot easier to get to that stuff. And then we'll plop the body on, and then it'll sit for a little while I work on another convertible Corvette. We'll kind of bounce between them. But the goal is to have this thing done hopefully in the spring or summer of next year and drive it and break it in, make sure everything works really well, and then get this thing sent home. So this guy is coming along. I know it's been sitting stagnant, but work's been getting done, and the plans are already in the works. A lot of the hard work is kind of, being done. We're going to have to obviously put a full interior in this. I'm going to have to get the seats redone. I'm probably going to have to get new door panels, obviously carpet and all that stuff. It still stinks in this car, which is part of the reason why the cover's on it. But, we'll get to it. We're going to leave the paint the way it is. It's all going to be mechanically restored. Interior is going to be really nice. Engine compartment's going to look beautiful. But we're going to leave this paint. Maybe we'll try to clean it up, rub it out a little bit. But this will be a really nice car whenever it's done. So next on the list is the 67 Camaro. My dad bought this car a couple years ago when my buddy and I bought 2 or 3 cars total. And this is the gem that my dad picked out of the lineup. We did a bunch of work to this car. It basically needed everything gone through. We thought it was a really nice car, had the paint stripped. Turns out it had a collision right here at one point. So someone took a chunk of another Camaro, the quarter panel, the inner structure, and they brazed it in place and there was a whole bunch of mud in the rocker. It was bad. So we ended up putting a roof skin on it, the roof structure on this side, a quarter panel, a rocker, a door skin on the driver's side, and then I had to put part of a trunk floor in it. I don't remember if I did anything else. I did do a couple little patches here and there, like in the back. But that was all my work on this car, and from here on out, it's been my dad working on it. He has the inside of the floor primed, and then he has the trunk all body worked and smoothed out. It just took a little bit of work to get some of those welds dialed in where I put the new trunk pan in it, but it turned out really awesome. He has, every panel's been primed. The underside of the car, which I think is unmasked now, the underside of the car is all painted. The rear end's been rebuilt. There was some weird stuff going on with that. That's been all rebuilt, and the whole floor has been painted. So the underside of the car is in great shape. I think last time I showed it to you, it was on jack stands. The subframe may have been under it, but now all the suspension is rebuilt. Everything looks really good in there. We had all that stuff powder coated by our local guy. He does an awesome job. So the whole car, mechanically in terms of the suspension, is all gone through, and he's been working on panel gapping it and doing final rough end body work, if that makes sense. So he started with the back, getting the doors to fit the body, and then getting the fenders to fit the doors and the hood to fit all that stuff. So it's been quite a process, and you can see that the gaps are looking really good. It's hard to get them nice, and I see a lot of Camaros where they're really wide here, where the door sticks up or the fender sticks down. They just don't, there's a lot going on here. You really have to work at it to get it to line up nice, and I think it's looking really awesome. And the trunk also fits really well. So it's coming together. So I think the next steps, looks like last time I saw it, there were still some bodywork spots that weren't in primer, so he just did a whole nother round of priming on it. It looks like this area is pretty fresh. You can see gaps look nice in here too. And I know he spent a good bit of time getting the hood to fit properly, because the reproduction hinges put this up higher, and I guess the reproduction fender was also a little different. So he had to do a little massaging to get all of this to flow. But the hood gaps, I mean, look at that. It looks really nice. It's turning out to be a really nice car. So this is a good spot to be in. So I guess now he's going to be in some more final body work, and then eventually going to get into some filler primer and blocking, and a lot of blocking and some more blocking. And the guy that's painting Overkill, you know, I sold Overkill to my neighbor across the street, he's going to be painting this car. So I really don't have a whole lot of updates on Overkill. I guess I can clue you in on that as well. But that's the plan for this car. I don't know anything about a timeline, what he has going on with it, but it's turning out really nice. It's a really solid project, and I'm excited to see when he finally gets this thing together. But I do have a couple things that I need to do for this. One, I need to put this little piece on the quarter panel. This little guy goes underneath this lip back here as a reinforcement. He's been asking me to do that for a while, so I have to do that. He also asked me to make another one of these little filler plates that goes on the underside of the wing. I guess one of them was missing, so we're going to whip one of these up real quick, and then I need to weld a couple nuts on one of the fender braces. Those fell off, or those weren't existing. So we're going to go ahead and whip some of that stuff up, get those knocked off, so, you know, we're not holding them back at all. So I got the wing out here, and you can see our little piece that we made. It just goes over here and just covers up this little opening. It's Really not all that important of a piece, but we didn't have it, and now we do. So I'll probably just, I think we're missing a screw, so I'll probably just put them both right here and put one screw in it, and that'll hold both of them in place so we don't lose the other one. And maybe we should go ahead and set this wing on the car just to see what it looks like, because that really changes the whole look of the car. So maybe we'll do that. I also welded in this little piece. I ended up chipping away a little bit of the primer there, but I got this piece tacked in and welded it along the backside in here, so it could use a little bit of grinding, but it is now installed. And I know he has several more rounds of primer. Hopefully he was planning to do a little more touch up, because little blister there, but that can be fixed up. And the other one was I needed to weld some nuts on this one bracket. So again, it's gonna need a little bit of touch up. I heated these nuts up first with the torch just to try to bring them up, because this metal is significantly thinner than these nuts. So I just brought that up to temperature, burn off any oils off of them, and that just helped the weld bite into them a little more. So that's gonna need a little touch up, a little clean up, and it probably doesn't hurt to run a tap through there just to make sure that those threads are good. But those were the 3 projects I was assigned to do, like, I don't know, 24 years ago. Finally did them, so now I'm sure he'll find some more projects for me to do, but at least we caught up. All right, now with the wing on, it looks a lot more like a Camaro in my opinion. Over here on the 67 Roadster, which you guys have probably seen this car started off from several chunks, you know, how we usually do it on the channel. We had a pretty decent cowl section, pretty decent rear deck, and some pieces of floors. Put it all together with some brand new quarter panels, and here we are. Since you guys last saw it, I have the upper firewall and the firewall plenums glued on. So that's pretty much the last step before we get the front end put on this thing. I need to get the hinge pillars in here, but I also need to level the body. There's some splash shields and stuff I need to glue in before I put it back on the wheels and make sure everything's good. So there's still some screwing around before we get to actually gluing the front end on, because we need to make sure everything fits properly. But this car is going on a Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis, just not this one. So it's just on here kind of for mock-up right now. And then this split window back here that's hiding under 2 front ends, this one will be next on the list. Once this guy goes home or I'm done with this, we're gonna start working on this. We need to pull some of the fiberglass off, inspect the bird cage, and then we're gonna glue everything back together. So it's getting, it's also going on a Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis. It's gonna have dynamic Corvette's rear floor. We're gonna put new quarters on it. Again, we have to glue everything. The whole body's just sitting on it. We've got to glue a front end on it. We're gonna do some stuff to the firewall on this one. So it'll be a nice car whenever it's done. It's just gonna take a little bit of work. This one needs new gutters. There's a couple little rust holes here and there, but overall she's pretty solid. So this one hopefully shouldn't take all that long. I'm guessing month and a half to put this one together, and this one's probably a week or 2 out from being done. And then once those 2 are out, that's when we're really gonna jump on this guy. And we're gonna have that 65 Roadster that I still haven't given a name. That car will be in. I'm still working with the owner to figure out the details on exactly, what that car is gonna be. It's gonna be on a Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis, big surprise. But he ordered this hood from Dynamic Corvettes that's gonna go on it. I guess it's the C3 L88 bump hood. So this is a pretty gnarly hood. It's gonna give it that hot rod look. He'll have plenty of room for whatever kind of engine or intake he wants to have in the car. But again, it's just like, well, I really can't get it out, it's nested in here. But it's just like any of their other hoods from Dynamic. It's got a really nice finish on the outside as well as the inside. But he's still picking out whether he wants to go with a little bit wide quarter panel or stock or something in between. So I'm working with him. We're gonna figure out the details on that. So that car will be coming up. It'll be a similar build to this guy here, but it'll be fun. He's just figuring out exactly what he wants to do, and I'm not rushing him. It's really easy to glue these panels on once. I really don't like to take stuff back apart, so we're just gonna make sure we pick out all the right parts, and he's happy with the build. But I think we're getting close to figuring something out, but this car will probably start on it November, December time frame, and we'll bounce between it and the 68 Corvette. This is the car that I took to Corvettes at Carlisle. I have a front end for it. I pretty much have all the fiberglass for it, unless we make some minor changes here or there, take some liberties. So I guess let's go back to the townhouse and I'll show you what's going on with Lucy. Hopefully I have a video coming out next week on putting a fuel tank in it and maybe driving it. Maybe it'll actually work. So I guess we'll jump to that and to Jerry, the COE. So now Lucy's up on deck to get some new fuel lines. So they sent a absolutely gigantic box for the main fuel line. We're going to put a fuel line in it. And then in this pile of furniture and 68 Corvette parts and some C1 parts, I have a gas tank to put in it. I have a new filler neck, sending unit, and all those goodies to go with that to get that dialed in. I previously put on another carburetor. That's the one that came off of it. So I put on, which you guys may have seen in a previous video. Oh, I still got the air cleaner off. I put on a different fuel system. We put on a new carburetor, and I added a fuel filter, oil filter. We had to put a new radiator in this dude, and a new fuel pump. But all this started because we were driving home night of the wedding. Ran out of gas. And now that I'm seeing all this, we may have had some other issues going on. The car may not have been fully out of gas. I'm thinking it was low, and we plugged the sending unit, the sock in the sending unit with some sediment in the tank, and then I just don't think it's been able to get enough fuel since. We have a glass bowl here, and you can see it's not full. Well, I've been having a hard time getting it to fill up. And we had a hard time getting the fuel pump to prime whenever I put that one on. And once I put the carburetor on, I had a hard time getting it up. So I'm thinking this is the original fuel line on this car and that it's plugged somewhere. So we're just going to start fresh, put a new fuel system in front to back. That way we're completely sure that we've gotten rid of the problem. But the good news is we have a full tank of gas. So that's fine. So we have to drain that. I got one of these things that you see at swap meets. So we'll use this hopefully to siphon the gas out of the tank. And then we will, hopefully, maybe next week or something, get the fuel line in here, get that buttoned up. And then I'd like to drive it a little bit this season before we put it away. Next year, probably going to have to upgrade the master cylinder and some new fuel lines, just so if we do lose something, we don't lose all brakes and crash, because she's in good shape. So I'm going to work on stopping it after we make it go. And then I also need to put on a new exhaust because that's leaking. So I think we're just going to put a dual exhaust on it with just some little bit louder mufflers, but nothing crazy because it's just a little guy. And then we have Jerry back here, my 48 COE. So the plan is once pretty much, I guess all three of the cars leave that are in the shop right now, the 63 Split, the 67 Roadster, and the 68. Once those cars are gone, I'm probably going to bring Jerry over. But I think the cart's too tall. I'll have to measure. Pretty sure it's taller than me right now. But I would like to put this in the shed in the back and work on the cab because, well, we have some work to do on it. You can see it has some damage here on the cowl. Looks like there's a little bit of, I guess that's where they seamed it, or there's a crack. There's some little bit of damage here and there. I'd like to start fixing some of those little things on the cab and just getting it ready to go. There were some dents. I also went and got at Carlisle a new cab corner for the driver's side. It was rotten out somewhere in here. This one's in pretty good shape. But I'd like to get started on this truck, do some of the metal work, and have it in the back shed underneath all the Corvette bones. Just start working on it. And then I'm in the process of looking for probably an express cutaway van, pretty much one with a 16-foot box or a chassis that's long enough for 16 feet. We'll put this cab on top, and then I'd like to get a stake bed to put on the back and turn that into a ramp to make a ramp truck out of it. That's the plan for this truck. I'd like to do that next year, and it'd be really cool to have this truck ready for Carlisle to take the whole kit and caboodle to the Corvettes at Carlisle show and maybe load up a Roadster shop chassis or something. So I'm hoping to get this guy rolling here coming up soon. Then the Model A, unfortunately this dude's pretty far to the back. We're also looking for a house so we can keep all these cars somewhere. But the plan will be, once this is a truck and running, I'll take this thing to the acid dipper just because I'm pretty sure this thing had a fire and that's why it's so scaly. But I'd like to get this thing acid dipped before we start on it, and start doing some of the metal repairs, fixing bottoms of the doors and the bottoms of the quarters and that kind of stuff. And I'm going to get a Bowling Brothers chassis for it. We have engine, transmission, I have a dash, I have gauge cluster. So we have some of the big parts. The big one's going to be the chassis, obviously paint and body, and then the interior. Those are pretty much the big things left to spend on that car. So there's going to be a lot of stuff involved, but this will be a fairly low priced build compared to a lot of them. So this guy will be coming in a couple years, unfortunately. There's just a lot of other things in front of it. And in the very back, this green rear deck is a 66 that's going to be coming up on the channel. And this is the roof structure for it, and some of the other birdcage pieces are in here. That'll be coming up next fall, end of summer, fall, somewhere in that time frame. That one's going on a Roadster shop, Spec 7 chassis, and that's the front end I picked up at Carlisle. So this car is going to have really nice fiberglass on it. Has a nice taillight panel. We have new quarters from Vet Masters, so it's going to be a nice car. And then this one's a 63 split, this chunk here. That one I'll get to it, I don't know, 26 in the year 26. I'm not quite sure. We've got a lot of projects going on at the moment. And then all in the garage, we have leftover furniture, stuff from the wedding, and 68 parts. So I have a new leaf spring down there, fuel line, brake lines back there. We've just got stuff nested in everywhere. So hopefully once we start getting these cars done and get Jerry out of here and get these 68 parts out of here, we'll really start to clear out space in the garage. Maybe we could park another rig in here, you know? But we'll see. That's kind of what's happening here. I'd like to get this old girl back on the road before the end of the year, put some miles on it, and also get the red split window out as well. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. We have some work coming up on Lucy that you'll see very soon, as well as getting this 67 Corvette wrapped up. So there's plenty of projects coming. And again, if you've been subscribed because of the 68 Corvette, I really appreciate your guys' patience, but this stuff takes time, and there's a method to the madness here. You just have to kind of trust the process. All the cars are going to be finished here eventually. It's just a matter of when the parts are available and when I'm available. There's still a lot of cool Corvette content that you're not going to want to miss. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That really helps my channel. And if you want to support the channel, check out my website and consider buying a t-shirt or a hat. I'm going to hopefully get some stickers up on there soon. Everybody's been asking about those as well. So I got a lot of work to do, and I'll catch you guys later.